Gilad Shalit is now home after 5.5 years in captivity. While the country is wishing him a speedy recovery and a return to normal life, Gilad is bound to face a number of challenges, especially psychological ones. Gilad was held in solitary confinement for over 5 years. He never saw a day of sunlight. He lived in a constant fear of being killed. And his father says he doesn't believe Hamas when they say they never tortured his son. We came here to the Tal Shomer Hospital to talk to Dr. Yarden Levinsky. He's a psychiatrist that specializes in treating IDF soldiers who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. I began by asking him what kind of emotional problems Gilad may face.
Well, it's complicated because there are various levels of emotions involved. First of all, there's the isolation, because he was isolated from basically everybody for the past 5 and almost a half years. And the feeling, the most important feeling there is his inability to control his life. He was unable to decide anything for himself. He used to ask permission to go to the bathroom. So his basic feeling now is insecurity about his ability to decide for himself. Now, on top of that, you can see that he was traumatized by the kidnapping itself. And if he was tortured or interrogated, that's another level of emotions and complications that are layered on top of each other. And the last thing is that he's now released, and he has to deal with all the attention, because he lived for the past 5 years alone, and he had to deal only with himself, basically only with himself. And now he has to deal with an entire country of people who are interested in him and trying to know everything about him. That's a major contrast to what he lived for the past few years.
Right, he went from nobody caring about him to suddenly an entire country looking at his every move.
Yes, he's center of attention for the entire country.
The recovery process is bound to be years, no? And in different stages?
We don't know what will happen to Gilad. Some people who have been in captivity are able to live in a perfectly normal, almost normal life, getting married, working. And even though they might have memories or flashbacks or nightmares, they are able to continue their life almost as if nothing happened. Others, we can see their inability to cope with all the process that they've gone through, and some might go into depression, some might feel anxiety, some might even develop a post-traumatic stress disorder. But we can't know at this stage what will happen with Gilad.
Does it matter that before his captivity, people commonly described him as someone who was shy and withdrawn? Does that put him at a disadvantage for a trauma like this, or?
And not necessarily. There are prognostic factors, such as personality, some types of personality. Mostly narcissistic personality is more prone to PTSD, for example. And his upbringing, his life before he was traumatized, what happened there, if his family was supportive, if he has a genetic susceptibility to post-traumatic distress or depression. If he didn't have all those, so he was at a better position to go into trauma. But we don't know, because few people have been isolated for that long for this kind of trauma, even in Israel. He was the prisoner that was the longest imprisonment for any POW in Israel.
That's right, because a lot of the POWs in Israel after the Yom Kippur War, they were in groups.
Yeah, most of the POWs of Yom Kippur were together. Even though some were taken for several months, most of the time they were together. They were able to talk with other Israeli prisoners. So they had a support group of their own. And he was alone, totally alone, for a very, very long time.
So what will be, do you think, the initial part of his treatment? Talking therapy, drugs?
Probably it will be talk therapy. The start phase of the therapy will be to know somebody and to trust him. Because when he knew his captors, but he didn't trust them. And for now, he will have to meet somebody new, other than his family, and to learn to trust him and be able to talk to him about all the things that he feels, all those things that maybe he's keeping inside of him, and maybe he doesn't need to let them out. But only a professional will know what to do with that.
Given your experience treating other patients that have had PTSD and traumatic experiences, soldiers, do you think Gilad has a good chance of pulling through?
Basically, the answer is yes, because there are various factors. One of them is that he will be treated immediately after being released. It won't. Some people wait for years before they seek treatment. Another thing is that his family is very supportive, so that will help him also. And we in Israel unfortunately, we have a lot of experience with post-traumatic stress disorder. We're treating with trauma, military trauma. So he has a good chance of handling it and living a good life.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yarden Levinsky, for joining us on Jewish News One.
Thank you.